5.1. Read 5.1.
Item 5.1, Mr. Paulo Pettis, Program Manager, ECM, and other ECM representatives will provide an update briefing on the progress of the Combined Fee Revenue Improvement Bonds Series 2016 program. The briefing items will include, but are not limited to, a general update including schedule and budget for all 6 projects, as well as an overall bond schedule and budget update.
Okay. Your Honor?
Good afternoon, Dr. Serrata, Judge Aggerty, good afternoon, board members. We have a lot to talk about. I just want to preface the meeting by saying that we've changed a little bit our approach of reporting the schedule in terms of focusing more on what we think the project is going rather than having been a contract guy. I very much have a tendency to go by contract dates, but for the sake of everyone involved, we believe, and we had a meeting earlier with Dr. Serrata a couple of weeks ago, that we believe it's better to just tell you what we're thinking. And so the approach, the format is identical, but the approach is different, just to give you a heads up about that. So starting with Mission Del Paso, it's going quite well. They're doing a lot of progress. Needless to say, like I warned you last month, I'm sorry, they'll be starting in the summer one, not in the spring meeting master, but we feel pretty good that they will be able to achieve that. You can tell the building is developing pretty well. We're even though the sidelines are in place, they've done quite a bit of sided work. They've done a lot of work. They're focusing mostly on this area. It's almost pretty much done. As you can tell by these pictures here, you know, a lot of the classrooms on this side, actually most classrooms this side are finished already. So all they need now is the ceiling. As far as the schedule, like I told you, we moved the date now for the substantial. The contractual substantial date right now for them is this date, February 28th. But this is where we feel they're going to hit with the substantial completion, which would give us adequate time to move in the furniture and move in all the computers, all the equipment, and be ready for summer one session, which is May 26th. As far as the progress of the payments, as you can tell, if you recall, there was a dip in December, and now that's being corrected, obviously, now that we're kind of in the swing of things into January, and this is a February 1st, this data. Aero construction of the Rio Home project, that one, it's going well. It is, in our opinion, quite a bit behind. If you recall, at the last meeting last month, I told you that we did a schedule analysis of what the contractor provided us, and at the time I told you, you know, it looked like they were about 5 weeks behind, but really what concerning us was there were some issues with the logic in the schedule. So right now they've poured the north side. This is the 6th floor here, then it'll be 7th floor and then the roof. They already poured the lightweight concrete on this north side. They have insulation here, and here's the structural slab. You really can tell here what we're talking about. So here's the slab, and there's the insulation, and then now they're pouring here, and this was back last week, that they poured the concrete, the lightweight concrete. So what's happened is after David Rawlings in our office is spearheading that scheduling overview with Arrow, the contractor, and they sat down with them and they did not disagree to his assessment. And so based on what we see now, and mind you, whenever we get to the third board action item, Mel will cover a little more the method by which we got to where we are, but what we see ourselves at right now is that their contractual substantial completion date as it stands right now is September 7th. However, after we look at the schedule, and mind you, this is not taking into account anything that might come up in the meantime, namely bad weather or anything that they'll cause us to further change our forecast. We're looking at the substantial completion of December 14th, which with the Christmas holidays and New Year and all that, we really don't feel, and the amount of time that will probably be required to occupy the building, we don't feel like 30 days will be enough. We really don't feel comfortable even saying that we're gonna be ready for the spring of next year. It'll probably be like the spring of next. And I know that's quite a jump from the last meeting, but we were suspecting this, we just wanted to make sure. And, the contractor is supposed to go back and fix the logical mistakes they had in their schedule and provide us with a revised schedule, but right now, this is where we feel we are at Rio Grande. Again, the same thing, we had a little dip there in December, but now it's going back up. Valle Verde, this is actually a slide I thought would be a good idea to show you what the projected look was, and it's really starting to shape up. Mind you behind, but it is looking very nice. The quality of work is quite good, and as you can tell, it's very close. The exterior is very close to being done. We like the logo there. We like finishing the cladding here, but in general, the exterior is looking pretty good. So in the interiors, they have 95% of the casework is in. They have some areas that looks just about finished, and there's some areas that looks like still needs quite a bit of work. But in general, they're progressing at a good level, not the required level that you would anticipate, but certainly at a good pace. This is that lobby, and this stair here is the interior stair, and overall the building is looking good, but going slow. Right now, I'll give you just a minute. I'll give you what we forecast in terms of the schedule, and it's not different from last meeting. Last meeting I told you probably the fall, and that's what it's looking like. With a little bit of an asterisk in terms of they having to run the cable, and they've told us that the cabling would take 20 weeks initially, but they've talked to the subcontractor and they got it down to 12 weeks, which is manageable. But the precedent is there of what they told us, and we actually done. That's the only qualifier right now on this issue. But other than that, this is a chart right now hopefully you'll be a little familiar with, that in December, we had that top there. Then back in January when I was presenting last, we were down there at 62, we were back up at 85. And yesterday I was actually talking to Mel about this, and he had a real good point. Said, yeah, this is interesting, but it gives us the maximum. It doesn't give us an average. An average would be a lot more reliable. So we actually came up with this chart that gives the average, which shows. I went all the way back to August just to give you an idea how they were and how much they increased. And these are averages for the month. Mind you, they should be about like 100, 120 people, but irrespective of that, they're not, throwing their hands in the air and leaving. They're still making an effort to get the work done, and they're providing the necessary people. The issue they're having right now, and that's the unknown. They did give us a revised schedule, but the issue we have right now is that one of the subcontractors left the project and took a lot of materials with him. And so they're having to reorder the materials that we already paid for at their cost. And just that one subcontractor, they are 1.4 million in the hole because they're having to reorder everything. So that's also delaying us. So the schedule they provided to us has a little asterisk that basically says, hey, we are not fully conscious yet of the impact that the lead having that.
Can you repeat that?
1.4 million.
Where did we get that information?
From the HV.
Yeah.
Tuesday, we got that Tuesday.
And let me clarify that because it's a loaded that can be interpreted many ways. So the contractor owns their site and owns their materials. Everything is theirs until they turn it over to you. It is contractual that way. So if he has problems with his own people, if they steal from him, they're not ultimately it can affect us, but he's in the hole, we're not. You know, they're stealing from him, from the contractor, not from us.
So when you say that, when you say the contractor, it's this actually the subcontract that owned this material.
Well, the subcontractor has a contract with the contractor,
Yeah.
right? They have a dispute, internal dispute that we have absolutely nothing to do with. And, they took it upon themselves to leave the job and took some material with them to kind of pay themselves or whatever on the dispute. And this is all, you know, we're hearing things, we're not witnesses of the whole thing, we're not material, you know, involved in any of this. This is something that is happening and we're just happy to hear. And so it has to be shared with you with that caveat, that we're not policemen, we're not checking, we're not reviewing. Anyway, but it's not like they're stealing from you or that you're in the hole. And this 1.4 million that Paulo, this is all talking, right? So
Yeah,
it's a problem.
but it's important to mention, I'm not as much worried about the materials as the time it takes to get the materials again. And that's the point I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, that's true.
And so the materials, they have builder's risk insurance, it's really, not be crass, but it's their problem. My concern right now is that, for instance, they had to reorder the cable tray. Cable tray just got here last week. All the lighting fixtures, pretty much for the building material light fixture, are at another supplier. The supplier is not releasing because he hasn't been paid for all of the stuff. So all that has a potential impact on the schedule, and that's the thing we don't know yet. We are assuming, what I'm about to show you, it's assuming that we'll get that within some time. And another thing that I did in this particular project, I'm actually giving you some benchmark dates, so we can track every month and see where we're going, namely the light fixtures and things like that. So, going further on, here's where we feel we are right now. Their substantial completion date now lies at January 18th. Their liquidated damages after that time. So right now, we're estimating a substantial completion of June 19th with the move-in date of the 10th, with starting the classes on the fall semester for the 24th. I actually couldn't find this date, but I guesstimated it would be correct. Does anybody know when the fall semester started? 34. Okay, so I kind of guessed right. So in order to do this, there's two components that are absolutely critical. Is get all the materials and make sure that the cable tray, the low voltage subcontractor, performs stacking, working 6-hour days, 8 hours a day. If they follow up on that like they said they would, then we should be able to start classes in the fall. We came up with these benchmarks for me to report to you, the board, every month. So if we hit these, then we'll probably be in pretty good shape to have the building ready for the fall. So I figure this is just another lab of what reporting that we felt would be appropriate to just kind of letting you know, are we going rather than wait till it's fall and they don't. So these dates basically, and I did sit down with the contractor and verify with them, so you know, if we hit these dates, we look at the schedule. So we feel pretty confident that if they hit these dates, we should be in good shape.
But that's assuming that the materials
Yes,
come
ma'am.
in?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so
That's a big caveat.
Best case scenario
This one here, no, actually.
on the schedule benchmarks.
The benchmarks are actually, I have a little cushion.
Okay.
Yes, I do, because that's the, like the drop dead date, for lack of a better term. In other words, if they hit this date, they should be fine. And mind you, one of the things we're taking account to, and I told the contractor I wanted to do that just because there's gonna be it's gonna be so involved, the move in, I wanted 2 months. Now, there's a little bit of cushion in there as well that we could squeeze if we had to, but at this point, I told the contractor I had to have 2 months, which is why we're looking at the substantial completion June 19th. Any questions on that area? Yes, sir.
I'm not sure that we want to jump ahead, but I noticed that there's a change order, and the thing that I would like to discuss now about the change order is that your last sentence says the PCO, the change order, increases the contract time by 30 days.
Yes, sir.
We're dealing with that, and since it deals with change order and timing, and we're talking about timing, Why don't you tell us about the masonry angle that's gonna cut it?
I will certainly, when I get to it, I will certainly cover that, I have all the backup in there, and
Yeah.
I'll explain you the 30 days. Now, mind you, this date here, January 18th, does take into account 30 days.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It does-
But you haven't talked about it, so I was sort of waiting, I hate to wait until the change order, then you say something.
No, I understand that, yeah, and also, the thing with this change order, they've done the work. There is something you have to do, and I'll explain that to you. It was something critical that had to happen. It was an omission basically from the drawings, but if you don't mind.
No, that's fine, it's just
Because I
that
have
when
the
you,
pictures and everything.
yeah, but when you get to it, I want
Yes,
you
sir.
to tell me how come we're asking, we're then applying 30 days, which you said we've already done, but we'll wait until we get.
Yes, sir, yes,
We'll
sir.
wait until we get to
will,
that.
we will. So, here's the payout, and I can tell again how the payments, the due there in December, went through, but then starts picking back up. So in terms of the safety and the man hours, we're still doing excellent. That, it's pulled down over $500,000, and and going strong. Now, the schedule planner basically aligns with what I just told you, which is, we have these 3 projects complete. The initial class will look in one semester, Viagra flashback, lab fall semester, and Rio Grande the spring semester of 2021.
If we have this,
Yes, sir.
okay, Dr. Serrata,
Yes,
so
sir.
if we're delayed until that semester, what does that do to us as far as scheduling and also scheduling finances?
Sure.
Where we go?
Sure, so the spring mini-semester of 2021 is beyond the base year. None of those will go into our funding, which is state appropriations, which impacts the budget until 2023.
So overall, on budget update, it's really nothing, but I felt compelled I have to report to you because back in the December 13th, at the board meeting, that's the December 13th update, the board meeting in December. I told you that we were gonna transfer 121,600 from the Viagra project into the Trans Mountain project for landscaping project. Well, it turns out that there was a separate set of funds that was not applied to the construction that were used. So basically what I did, I reverted what I did at the board meeting, so I put back 121,600 back into the Viagra TTC project. So that's, and I don't know, let me see what the funds were for the other landscaping project, or apparently it was.
Probably was in the project reserve fund.
Yeah, I think that was it. I think that's what I mean. Yeah. So that was the only change to the budget, considerable change. Other than that, we're doing quite well. We're still holding on to a 4.1 million overall contingency for the bond. And the ones that are in blue, they're complete, so you can tell we still have a little bit of residual funding left. In terms of the ones that are in progress, they're doing quite well, and they're in the green right now.
Also, if I can ask.
Yes, sir.
a question.
Yes, sir.
So you mentioned at the beginning that you're taking a more conservative approach.
Yes, sir.
Did anything happen between the last meeting and this meeting that would have forced you to move the date up? Or are you just taking a more?
No, that's a good question. That's a real good question. Like, for instance, the main thing is I'm putting more focus, instead of focusing on so much in the contractual thing, I'm putting a little more focus where we think we're going. But what has happened, Mission at the last meeting, if y'all indulge me for a minute, Mission at the last meeting, I told you that they were still telling us the spring mini master, but in my opinion, and I told you I hope I'm wrong, in my opinion, it was going to be the summer. Now we have that, since then, we have that determined. Rio Grande, at the last meeting, I basically told you it looked like we're 5 months behind, but there's some issues with the logic in the schedule that we have to sit down contract and analyze. Now at this meeting, I'm basically telling you it looks like our concerns were legitimate. The contractor is not giving us that date, but based on our analysis of the current schedule, we feel that's probably the best they can do.
And by the,
In Valle Verde, the only thing that's happened since then is that, one of their subcontractors, which is a big impact, basically the electrical subcontractor, left the project. And since last time, so that's the part we don't know how it's gonna impact the schedule. And the fact that we're still trying to get some materials to replace the ones that left.
Do you have a replacement sub?
Sir?
Have you
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Identified the replacement sub?
Yes, sir, they do.
Are they online?
And they're yes, sir, yeah, as a matter of fact, they're quite good.
And the stuff is ordered, it's just that it's a scheduling delivery and it's a discussion as to who
Yes.
gets paid when. So
Yeah,
they'll release it.
yes, exactly. And for instance, a cable tray came in February 24th, so that was good. I mean, but that delay us some time because now they had to wait till the cable tray got in place. Did I answer your question?
I think so.
Okay.
It's complicated, probably you did have something happen, but
Yes, sir.
in that one and in the other two, you're just taking a more
Yeah.
different approach.
A different approach, more in focusing on what we think we're going rather than what the contract says we're going, in terms of what we see and what we feel according to the schedule. I did tell you last time that we're gonna be the fall, that we're looking at the fall at Valle Verde. Now I'm just pretty much reinforcing that and give you some a little more conservative dates that I gave you last time. So this budget has not changed at all, it remained the same. Now we'll go into action items. So the first action item is easement for Texas Gas for the Mission building. So right now, okay, do you want me to read the people?
I can read it out. Item 6.1, Mr. Pettis will present the details of the utility easement request from the Texas Gas Service, a division of One Gas Incorporated, that is needed to provide main gas service to the new Mission Del Paso classroom lab building project. We will request the Board of Trustees to direct the President to grant the proposed easement and to direct ECM and EPCC staff to take the necessary steps to have the easement formally recorded.
So what we have basically, it's an easement agreement, and I'm just, this will be in your package with all the pages of the agreement. But, in a nutshell, what the agreement consists of is running, 5-foot easement, right along, this is that main road that goes into the heart of the campus. And this being here, the east side, and Texas Gas will need to we'll need to get an easement for this gas line to get in here. And what we're gonna do, we're gonna tap in into that line here and bring the gas into the building, and that's a meter right there for the gas. So we absolutely need to have this easement being granted to Texas Gas.
When was it determined we need this?
To my knowledge, because that's a big if, but to my knowledge, it's been a few months that we needed to get that done. You probably know more details about it. I know the context.
The gas company sent the easement initially in January, however, they didn't attach any drawings, and they referred to the drawings.
In other words, the delay is not on our part.
Oh, no, and it's not delaying
We
the
just
project.
received it last week again.
So, I mean, you anticipated this in the initial development of the program to start with.
Yes, it's not
Okay, and it's just that other people outside are not doing their jobs in a timely fashion, right?
correct. We'll be fine.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion made.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Item passes.
So now, we're going with masonry with angles, and I hope I'll answer your question now a little more in the.
Go ahead and read 6.2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Item 6.2, Mr. Pettis will request the Board of Trustees to formally approve a proposed change order to HB Construction in an amount not to exceed $96,000 for installation of masonry relief angles for the Via Verde classroom lab building construction project. This PCO increases the contract time by 30 days.
So this is basically a textbook picture that kind of give you an idea of what the relief angle is. So basically, when you have veneer, like in this case is brick, in our case it's just some CIE units, that carries a lot of weight down. So at some point vertically, you have to relieve that weight so you won't pressure the brick behind it. What happens is, like say, if we didn't have a relief angle, the brick will crack because you put too much weight on the brick below. So what we're having is an angle that's attached. This is a floor, like let's say it can be the second floor, it can be the third floor, and they attach an angle to it that carries the weight of the brick above. So in this instance, what happened in the drawings for the project, the architect had this drawing, and he did call a steel angle in there. This is a typical detail, and the steel angle referred to the structural drawings. The issue was that when he went to the structural drawings to look for where the angle is, yeah, there were some angles there, but not nearly enough. They were just in a few locations instead of being all over. So what happens now, this is something that we had to pay, that it wasn't part of the bid because obviously those angles weren't priced because they weren't in the drawings, but it's something that could cause a delay because now they can't build above until those angles are in place. In some instances, they actually already had this insulation, so they had to cut that insulation to go install the angles. And they showed all the property, it's called fragnets, which is captured from the schedule that shows how that impacted the other trades around it. They couldn't finish the exterior wall, basically. So that's for the 30 days, that's what caused it. And this was back September, about September, October. So this was, it's just now making it to us because we had to go back and forth with them as far as the costs. Their initial request for this was $164,000. So we kind of have to beat up on them a little bit, but we got them to agree on the final number of $96,000, and that's a fair number. So.
So you said that was not part of the original bid, so is there an exception for that, or how then are we allowed to move forward with the installation of the masonry?
And that's exactly why, because it wasn't in the bid, it's not like you're paying for the steel and then you have to take the steel out and you have to pay for more steel. You're basically paying for something that wasn't there to begin with, but affected the progress of the project.
I'm not sure we understand your question.
So I would imagine like with any bid or any RFP or anything that goes out, it's all part of a package, and you're looking at everything and all the, whatever you need to buy, part of one bid. So clearly, we need to do this is the installation of the masonry relief, and so it's something that's outside of the bid. And so my question is, how then are we, then is it
It's a
not,
change order.
does it not have to fall under the purchasing act? Is it not a purchasing issue? Okay.
No, you don't have to bid this out. It's literally a change order,
Okay.
which is along with all the other things.
Okay.
And that's what we have a contingency for, is to cover
Okay.
exactly expenses like that.
Okay.
And this is fairly common. All the projects, there's no architectural drawings that are 100%
Right.
complete and accurate and perfect, So there's a rule of thumb that says 95%. The architects like to say that. It's not our design, but architects like to say that they got about a 5% thing. And I think Rick here is chuckling by that comment. So, you have to address these things as they happen. Right? Sometimes it's an unforeseen condition, sometimes it's a mistake. It's a human error, Maybe the CAD guy put it in certain place and forgot to copy and paste it everywhere. And so the contractor has a right to claim that was not part of the original contract.
Contemplated, right.
And in terms of errors and omissions, which is the term we've used before as far as who's responsible for this, in this case, this would fall under omissions because it's not necessarily error, it's something they missed putting in the drawings.
Okay, help me understand this, because we hired you because the rest of us don't have enough knowledge and insight to catch these kinds of things when the projects are being developed.
Correct.
So how do we miss so many of these omissions, you know, because if you're getting paid to look at the plans and determine, you know, what's gonna be done and all of that, and then you come back and say, well, we need 100 or 96,000 more because there was not this, why was that not caught at the time that you all looked at the
Because
plans?
just like the architects can guarantee they catch everything, I mean, they do everything, we can't catch everything. This one's actually very hard to catch, because the detail showed the angle was there in the building. What happened was in the structural drawing, they didn't put enough steel angles. It would have been something, yeah, maybe we could have caught as you review, but in general, those kind of things are very hard, unless you actually review, we're not doing 100% review, we don't review every single little nut and bolt detail, if that makes sense. We do general reviews, and in this instance, like if this detail was there, it would have been expected to say, hey, you're not showing any relief angles. But when you're reviewing, say, there is a relief angle there. Does that make sense?
A little bit, but
It's-
I think we've already exceeded the 5% just going by, you know, the percentage of omissions
Actually, I don't
and.
think we have.
So,
No, I don't think so.
I'll have a presentation coming up in one of the next items, and I think I addressed that question. Give me a second, and I'll try to address it there in the presentation.
I just don't find it fair that we keep having to add, you know, or approve more and more and more money because something was missed or something wasn't picked up at the time of the original
But
review.
if it makes you feel any better, every construction project has these. That's why
It
you have
doesn't
to
make
have
me feel any
contingency.
better because that's why we hired
I was
you
hoping.
or your company.
But we
to stay
still,
on top of it.
we still need that contingency to cover exactly these kind of things. And to basically answer your question about the 5%, the reason I'm saying it probably hasn't had the 5% is because in this case, all they would be responsible for was the additional markup that if there was in the bid, which is, let's say, for instance, this is 96, and maybe they were responsible for $9,000. And even that is very hard to quantify, because then you're using a little subjective, because you're saying, well, what could have been during bid, it could have been now. So it's the only one so far that we actually feel pretty strongly that it is errors and omissions 100% is that one, if you recall, we had to move back that concrete, so the glass could, that's the only one. But even that, in terms of percentage of a $37 million building, you know what I mean, it's still, but we certainly, when we get to the point that we already told Mr. Gallardo, Mr. Lobato, that we are gonna do an analysis. We're gonna go through, and I've already told the architect that we're gonna go through and evaluate, see what that number comes up, and then it's up to the college whether or not they want to enforce that.
The current move-in date and everything else,
Yes, sir.
has it been moved, this said, this increased the contract time by 30 days.
Yes, sir.
If all of this had been done on time, correctly the first time, would we be moving in up to 30 days earlier?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and this occurred some time ago?
Yes, sir.
Then my question is, why are we just now finding out about adding 30 days sometime back?
You are just, because what we're telling you was in terms of how the schedule was progressing along. The only reason we tell you now, because right now, we were able to sit down with them and actually see how that fit in what was going on at the time. So, okay, let me see if I can explain this a little better. This, at that time, we hadn't even hit the substantial completion date that was original. It was even before that. So at that time, yeah, we could see that delayed us, but as far as quantifying and turning into a change order, that took some time and some negotiating. Same thing with the cost, it was the same thing.
Well, we can argue about it, but it's already done, so we can't worry about it.
I think
But
you're moving
it just
a long
would like,
ways.
would you like to have seen this been identified to us, brought to us earlier? You know, it's something that happened, and frankly, I understand and I agree with the concept that, you know, if you look at a drawing and there is a relief angle in there, which I now see and understand, if there's one there, you sort of go into the assumption that it's adequate, you find out later that it's not adequate, so you add it, okay? The only thing is I think we should have just known that, hey, I'd like to have known that the contract time was delayed by 30 days, I'd like to have known in November, not now.
And let me say something, so what happens is, there's a situation on the field, and obviously, schedule is driving these projects, right? Like everybody understands, we wanna hit the schedule as soon as possible. So, gotta be, very often, the contractors are fully staffed, if you will, on the management side, they have to provide us with a cost estimate of their plans. We in turn, and that's the kind of what I will speak about it, we in turn review that cost estimate. We often ask for additional detail because they don't provide us with the detail. And
They tell you what you want, what they want you to know.
well, back and forth it goes, right? And it could take 2-3 months. They are certain, I mean, Mr. Lobato and Mr. Gallardo are certainly in the knowledge of these situations and where they're going, because we meet with them every week and we discuss these things. And so it takes a while to, some better than others, you know, and I don't wanna name names. But that's sort of the delay, the unfortunate delay. We just have to move on it because otherwise.
Well, it's done, it's done.
And unfortunately, I'm sorry to interrupt, but unfortunately, there's gonna be some more coming up exactly because of the kind of problems.
Well, I'm glad you're telling me that now.
Yeah.
Okay, motion to approve proposed action item 6.2.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
I'll ask you, are you in favor? No, because you say
say
nay.
nay.
I'm not comfortable with everything getting
Okay,
moved
let's
back
do this
30
again.
days and.
Got a motion and a second on 6.2. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Nay. I say nay. He's waiting for you to say nay.
Aye, it's the same thing. I'm not comfortable
You're
with
voting against it.
extending these timelines and
Huh?
Motion passed.
Yeah, motion passed.
we're moving way far away from
Now the
on
next
time
one is
and
a different
under
story.
budget. On time and under budget was the goal,
Okay,
ahead of schedule.
okay, you wanna go in there?
I would, this is the board and legal counsel, do we have ECM present the information? And then I know the board would like to go into executive session, so first present.
Yeah, I think it
Is that
makes sense for
appropriate?
them to present, first.
Okay, Pam, read 6.3.
Yes, sir. Item 6.3, Mr. Melchor Herrera, President ECM, will request the Board of Trustees to formally approve a consultant change order to ECM International Incorporated in the amount of $506,496 for additional project management services related to delays and time extensions for the construction of the 2016 master plan project.
Okay, well, thank you again for having us here. Let me, give you, what I wanted to do was to, explain to you all what our services are. And these are all contractual services. This is mostly for the newer board members that weren't here from the beginning, that saw us and went through the trenches with us in some of the early on work. And then we'll go into a couple of other things that have affected our contract and then the change order per se. But it's a presentation of our services to begin with. So when you all hired us, basically the first task was to understand what your needs were, your desires were, the program, if you will, the master plan, and then turn that into an actual project that can be built. So we analyze costs, we analyze things that others have done, and we kind of put them into context. A lot of the master plan work had been done at a 10,000 square feet level, and that's the right level to do a master plan. When we got into details, we saw, well, there's an arroyo where you want to put this building. You got to move it around. You know, things happened within the college where a new property was bought, things of that nature. So all that took some time, right? That's part of our process. Help you out. We like to say, in many contracts that we are part of, we're called the owner representative. So we're sort of an extension of your staff. We're doing what your staff would do if they were big enough, if they had the time. So that's kind of what we do. Obviously, we don't sign contracts, but we make recommendations, and then we discuss that with your staff to make decisions, right? Many of we don't make decisions typically here. We share with you options, we make recommendations, and then decisions are made. So the next thing that we did is we helped manage the procurement of the selection of architects, contractors, and multiple contracts that are part of this business, right? Materials testing, commissioning, geotechnical, surveying, all these things that take place to be able to build anything. We provided templates of contracts. As a matter of fact, we even discussed the delivery system of the projects, meaning, do we go competitive seal proposal, do we go design build, do we go CM at risk? And I will speak a little bit about some of the decisions that we made at that time and how that is affecting us now, both positively and negatively. So after that, we then selected architects, obviously in conjunction with you all, with your leadership, selected architects, brought them together, and I'm gonna use an analogy of a salad bowl, brought the architects, brought the program, brought the deans, brought the administration, and we hashed it out, all right? So we made decisions together as to exactly what we were going to build, because again, the program is pretty general when it comes to the master plan. You have general tendencies of what you wanna be doing on each campus, and even from the time that the master plan was done to when we actually started, but there were some changes as well. Also the cost per square foot, and I will speak of a little bit of that. Obviously that there were some changes from what originally that was conceived, and so we had to make some decisions, right? And I'll give you a couple of examples. We had 7 projects actually. We had a Mount Sinai temple that it was going to be converted into a very nice performance theater. And we hired an architect for that. They came up with a program, and of course the cost was like 3 times anticipated, because the direction of the staff was, let's go all out, let's have a real nice facility, and of course that costs money. So we removed that project, and then we added another floor on another instructional floor on the Rio Grande project. Then we added a second floor, so that we have 2 now. It used to be just a parking garage. And then we kind of, when we met with the deans, instructional, and she's smiling here at me, maybe cussing at me, I'm not sure, but we talked about what equipment is going to go in. And some of those decisions are still in the process, because some of that equipment hasn't been purchased yet. That's what Paulo talks about, change order. And that's by design, right? Because you don't want to order equipment too early, because even if you kind of order it, by the time you order something, especially technology oriented, in 2 years, that thing is no longer being built. And so you want to get the state of the art when you build it. So anyway, so we did all that. We reviewed and so during design, so once the architects are selected, we go through this programming, we go into different phases, some of them painful, but we kind of were hoping to be respectful to all the opinions, make decisions together, have everyone informed. That was very important to us, and that was a direction from the college, right? Make sure that all the stakeholders are accounted for, not make decisions in a bubble or driven by cost and not look at anything else. So we did that. The design started taking place, and we did review the design. So we caught a bunch of stuff. Typically our charge in the design is, okay, there's general conformance to the actual program, right? Some architects go rogue on us, and they go and they have a different vision than the college may have, and they like a monument to themselves and that kind of thing. So we kind of rein them back and so on and so forth. Obviously, that's part of the process. That's what any project manager, program manager would do. So going forward, we hired, we looked into the type of methodology to build things. We consulted with purchasing. The college has traditionally used competitive seal proposal, which is a methodology. It has its pros and cons. We went with it. We talked about CM at risk specifically because everybody else, all of the school districts and all of the other higher institutions in town, or UTEP and Texas Tech, use CM at risk. And so we had that discussion. We decided to go competitive seal proposal. And it's working for us in some things, and sometimes it's not so easy. But, provided, again, RFQs, RFPs, templates from, most of them came because of our people. Paulo and our previous program manager came from the UT system, so we had all that very strongly vetted, contractual stuff. And so we shared it with you, we used it, so part of our process was to maintain and control the budget and account for all the expenditures, and then, meet monthly with, Ms. Josette and make sure that we were on the right? And so that takes a lot of time, just make sure that every penny is accounted for. And then, of course, as I said, we made sure that you all stayed informed, and we have a multitude of reporting mechanisms. You're looking at one, but we do weekly meetings, we do cabinet meetings, we do other things, even weekly meetings with the contractors. So, next comes construction, right? And that's where we're at. We finished 3 projects, and we're working through the last 3. So here's by contract. Our contract says that we are to review the conformance, the general conformance to the site and the quality of construction, right? So if we were to count nails, again, it's a matter of common sense, right? It's like if we have to be counting the nails that we need to use, right? Because there's a standards for everything. We would have to have an army of people looking at how many nails are being installed. So we have a guy per job, typically. And then when the job is almost done, that even takes a hit. But so we have a guy that is looking at general conformance, right? And accounting for non-compliances to the contract, making observations, keeping it in record for your protection, legally and otherwise, and also to come back and force the contractor to do the right thing, right? So, of course, we look and we review the conformance to the schedule by the contractor, and I'll speak a little bit more of that a little later. We also manage the additional work. Some of it is actually requested by EPCC. So when we're talking about change orders, there's, of course, I understand that there's a little bit of boiling of the blood when we're having to ask you for more money. Well, keep in mind that a significant portion of that money that we ask for, it's a result of additional requirements from the college itself, But it is the right thing. It is a normal process. It's very hard for the faculty to understand a set of plans completely. And even again, things change. And I'll give you an example. On TTC, I think there were a couple of replacements on the high staff and they came with different ideas of what some of the TTC components should be. So we had to change, right? I mean, we asked the right questions. We sort of opposed it a little bit to kind of make sure that this is not just a little desire. But then after we got convinced, and again, we buy out from your staff, we go for it, right? Because it's not, can't really tell everybody no if they have a good case for it. So we have those change orders, we manage that, and every time that we do a change order, we have a process in place that is a review of the change order, and we do our own independent cost analysis, okay? And we have databases that we use, and it's not to completely destroy the contractors, because again, this is like a little bit of a family, because we're working together toward the same goal, so we have to be fair to them. But we have a process, and so we review the change orders. We also review the days requested, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. We also manage many contracts that are not part of the contractors, but are the colleges, and we're kind of the liaison of that. Meaning, furniture, equipment, the commissioning agent, the materials testing, the signage, all these things, basically our guy on the field, the one guy on the field, and of course Paulo and his team, make sure that the guys do their job, right? And because they're not under the contractor, so the contractor can care less, so we kind of serve that function as well. We also, this is just for one project that is outside your city limits, we actually are actually providing like the city inspection. So we have inspectors that sign cards. That's just because it's outside the city limits, and so there's no city inspections. That's mission. And then we also take this coordinator role of trying to make sense of all the mistakes that are made by the architects, sometimes by the contractors, and all this is in the spirit of who makes money, right, and who loses money, and so they're often contentious. It's very difficult to have a clear-cut case to just say, hey, well, there's often these situations where we have to mediate and we have to bring our opinion and bring our, not our opinion, or technical expertise to try to settle matters and keep going at the same time. Okay, I'm losing some of you, so I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. So what are we responsible for with regards to cost? So we don't have the contracts of constructing. So all we can do is basically manage requests, like, as I say. Then we review additional work claims by the contractors, and we say, is this work legitimate? Was this in the drawings or not? Because the drawings and the specs are the contract, are an attachment of the contract. Is the additional, again, was it included in the original proposal? And then is the proper backup produced so that we can review it and analyze it? We prepare that independent cost analysis. Then we discuss our results with the staff of the EPCC, and then we negotiate in your behalf. Just give you an example. This is, and I have a copy here. These are printouts of the logs of all the negotiations. And we separate them from project, and, I was just passing around if you want to take a look at it. And this is just one sheet of it. But this is the log of all the change orders that have been either initiated by you all, the contractor, the architect, because they realize that there's a mistake. And then just wanted to give you the results of this. This chart is basically a comparison of the original claim on the second column versus what was approved after negotiations, and then the delta per project. So to give you an example, on the Valle Verde Class Lab, we've saved you $700,000 in negotiations. So the overall negotiations is about $1.9 million that we've basically helped you save. Again, I'm not saying this is our job. I'm not saying that we're doing anything, giving us interest to heaven or anything. This is our job, and that's what we do. But I just wanted you to know, because sometimes with that, we're not boasting about the results of our work, and I just wanted to share that. Then we go into quality, right? And I explained a little bit already, but again, general conformance with construction drawings. Have we missed a couple of things? Absolutely, because again, it's in relationship to what the general industry is and how many people we have on the ground. Give you an example, we're typically around 5% in this contract of our services, and it includes all of the front-end work. But when we have contracts with highway work, textile, and it's only the construction portion, we're at 14% of the total construction contract, because we have an army of people there. And all the jobs are unit price, and so you have to account for every single unit bid item on a daily basis. And you have all this documentation for the state, and so you require a lot of people, and it's just mandated by the industry. Different industries have different markers as to what the project manager or construction manager should do, charge. Anyways, okay, so coordination of work with EPC, I already mentioned that. During construction, we have some of the vice presidents and administration leaders here that represent some of these departments, and when we have significant discussions with them, again, technology changes. From the time that you bid a job to the time that you're actually requesting something, sometimes the models of certain routers or whatnot, they're no longer being built, so we have to update it, and that requires some work. Anyways, management of utility companies. We lead the weekly owner, architect, contractor meeting where we hash out everything on a day-to-day, on a weekly basis. We looked at what's delaying us, what's the problems, how to resolve them, and we manage that, and we make a minute of those meetings, and that again is legal backup for any situation that happens, right? So we get into a dispute where a contractor doesn't want to do any work anymore, well, we say, well, that's part of the contract, and we told you so this date, and it's all in the minutes, right? So we also do daily reports, and management, schedule of management. This one is a little bit harder, and this is what's hurting us right now. So in coordination with the design architects, at the beginning of the job, you try to establish a reasonable amount of duration, so that you bid the job with a reasonable time. And we did that. We also, during construction, we request an updated construction schedule every month, along with the pay application. Some contractors that we've selected through the competitive seal proposal is close to low bid. It's not exactly low bid, but it is closer to low bid. So some of the contractors that have been selected are very poor in scheduling production, and so we have to, we have a choice, right? Do we fire them right away, or do we keep working with them in the hope that they're gonna work it out? So we review those on a monthly basis. We also have a 2-week look ahead that is more of a superintendent level construction schedule that we work every week with the contractor. We monitor their workforce. We review the updates. We review them for logical sequence and also for reasonable production, right? Many contractors in town tell us what we want to hear. They just keep delaying the problem, and that has been part of the situation where we've been trying to, and Paulo has told us what every week, every month, he tells us what's going on, but we have focused on the contractual just because this is a public meeting that is, it's a records meeting, right, as well, so we didn't want to say anything out of the place, but the contractors tell us what we want to hear. And then of course it's not real, and one of the questions that, what happened from last month to this month that we're changing our mind a little bit? Well, another month has passed and we've seen that it's not real. The contractors are not telling us the truth sometimes. So anyway, so we do that, we do coordinate with this contractor on schedule matters. Since we don't own the contractor schedule, all we can do is propose ideas. Well, how can we accelerate this? Can we bring a different crew here? Can we do this? And we do this all the time. We do an analysis and we bring it up. People that have been on the OAC meetings, that's part of the discussion. But we cannot force them to do anything. And so anyways, we negotiate your time extensions as well. And this is a result of those. Let me explain this. So this is a time negotiation overview. The second column is what the contractors requested. And they're not linear, okay? Because sometimes they request the same thing twice or 3 times. And every time that we knock them, we just log the difference. And so the second one, the third column is what has been actually approved, and of course the day sale, right? So that's that. You can see that by Verde TTC, that project was done on time, like Dr. Graham says, but we didn't have to argue with them a whole lot because they had their act together. The contractor had their act together when it came to schedule. What we're not responsible for, and this is equally important, and this is by contract. We're not responsible for preparing that schedule. The contractor needs to prepare it, and we are not responsible to update it. We cannot grab a responsibility that is not ours. We get in trouble in liability situations. The production performance, the critical thing here is the contractor has the shovels, they have the hammers. We don't have it. We have one person on each job. Contractor and subcontractor workforce, again, the disputes that are going on and all that, was we, and all the attorneys, I guess, will agree with me, we cannot open our mouths as to how to resolve an internal dispute amongst contractors and subcontractors. That's their business. That's their job. We cannot also tell the contractor what the phasing and sequencing should be, unless it's in the contract document. Sometimes the drawings have certain limits on things, and of course we enforce that. And it's a word that attorneys know, means and methods, right? We are not responsible for the contractor's means and methods. This is just, you cannot read this, but it's part of your package, and this is taken straight from the contracts of the different people. The contractors to the left, they're accountable. It speaks about their own failure on schedule times. The architect has some monitoring and advising and reviewing, and then, or ECM is also making recommendations, reviewing, notifying. Again, that's the language of contracts with regards to scheduling. So, give you an example real quick, because I don't want to take all the time. This is one of the reviews that we've done. for one of your jobs. And so, it's very hard to read, and of course, if anybody wants it, and I don't know how to zoom in here, I don't know if you even wanna try, Pablo. But basically, this is a schedule, an overview of the schedule for Rio Grande, and this is the one that we've been talking about, where the contractor says, yeah, we're gonna finish by November or so, no, September, right? September, and then we say, well, how can we be finishing in September? So we get into the logic, and, see if I can. So these are delays that we found, and then these are production rates that we see, and these, we're putting basically the contractor on notice that saying that what they're telling us is not real. They were hoping to build the last deck and the roofing at the same time. Well, you can't do that, right? You have to put the deck, and then you have to wait, and then you have to put the roof on top. Well, they had it at the same time, and that gave us 5 more weeks of delay. And so, at any rate, that's just an example. This is a schedule analysis, and so we give them all this information. We show them the error. We told them that they're about 6 weeks behind. There was a situation with the topping slab, and let me explain to you what that is. So we have this slab of the 6th floor, which is where you have your occupied floor. So you have the structural deck, but then you have a topping concrete slab on top of it, sandwiching an insulation, right? Insulation package, and that's by code. Well, the architect put a note, a single note in the drawings and all of it that said you have to use lightweight concrete. So there was no spec for the lightweight concrete. So the contractor found it finally, missed it originally. We found it, we stopped the pour, and then we said, okay, contractor, give us a mix for the lightweight concrete. Well, they couldn't find a mix. Nobody in El Paso had the aggregates to provide that light mix. That's the kind of thing that we go through, right? So I think they're bringing the mix from the Midwest somewhere, and so that's a delay right there. Again, we're not responsible. The college is not responsible. The contractor is, and so this is going to be. They don't catch up. It's going to be part of their liquidating damages. But we check with the engineer of record. Can we use a normal concrete? Would your calculations, structural calculations, allow us to, so that we can save time? And they said, well, no, we can't. And you're not going to argue with a structural engineer, right? Because you don't want the building to fall. So anyway, so that's part of the challenge. We gave them potential strategies and situations to recover, and we had these discussions with them. And again, was it still a work in progress? I mean, going back to this situation of telling you that whether we're going to be ready for the mini-semester or the spring semester, there's a little bit of possibility that the finishing company, they have 30 weeks to finish, according to schedule. Well, they could finish in 28 weeks, perhaps. And then we could be in business for spring, but at this point, we want to be conservative in our approach as opposed to tell you something that is outside of our hands. Anyways, okay, so that's just pictures of, the problem with this project is that it's very linear, right? You cannot start doing any work here until the concrete strengthens enough so that you can remove the forms. And so that's really making it difficult for them to catch up. And even everything is formed, as you can tell, and it takes quite a bit to remove all the forms so that you can start doing it underneath. So now let me tell you a little bit about, so I'm done with our services in a way. I hope that I didn't bore you to death. Now I want to talk a little bit about our market, because this is part of the equation where we're at. As you all know, there's tremendous construction around here. Tremendous, very unprecedented in my career for sure, and I don't think many people have seen more construction than what we have. And I show you some of the developments that are going on. I want to tell you that our project is not the only one delayed. Most of the projects, and I'm not going to say all because somebody can call me out here. I don't have control over everything. Most projects are being delayed significantly. Higher education projects are being delayed. The Texas Tech project, the large building, the and I'll talk a little bit about the UTEP one as well. They're both did more than 6 months ago, easily. A year, I think, for UTEP, right? You know, and again, this is all hearsay and she say, because just like we don't want all our information to be disseminated, they're not sharing all the information either. But it is a reality. One of the problems that we're having too is that the contractors are taking a lot more time between substantial and final. And let me explain that a little bit. So substantial, when substantial is called, you can occupy the building. You can hold classes at substantial completion. So the project is 95% complete. You know, there's a few hiccups here and there. And so let's say we achieve substantial completion. Most of the job has been paid at that point, right? 90 to 95% of the job has been paid. We hold our retainage by contract so that we can make the contractors come back. But what's happening is all the subs have so much work in town that they just immediately go to the new job where they can generate more revenue quicker, right? Because when you start a job, you can start. And so we're losing the crews from the subs, and they're leaving 1 or 2 people left behind, kind of thing. And so it's making it very difficult. It's straining those projects. Now, success has been sort of achieved because you're already taking classes or holding classes, but they're not finished. And that hurts us too, hurts everyone, because then you start running into this situation of what is punch list and what is warranty, because the buildings are being used, right? So that's another complication. And then, let me tell you a little bit about the owner. So one of the effects of the market is that most owners are now going to construction management at risk. Let me tell you how that works. So construction management at risk, you hire a contractor at the same time that you hire the architect, basically. And the contractor is supposed to help you put together the drawings and kind of make decisions as the drawings are being developed. And they have a pre-construction fee, you know, and typically, well, depending on the size of the project, $200,000, $300,000, but not. And their support on scheduling, on cost estimating, on definition of phasing, on definition of some finishes are more expensive than others, and they arrive at what's called a guaranteed maximum price. But you select the contractor basically on qualifications only, and some metrics as well that are. Is basically the contractors have the opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to work with you to get to the GMP, but you're not going to force me to use the low bid subcontractors. I'm going to use the ones that I like, or the better ones, the bigger ones, and then they hold 2 contingencies. So it's very difficult for a CM at risk project to be to run out of money, because they have contingencies that they hold. Both the owner has a contingency, and then the contractor himself has a contingency. And so every time that somebody that does a CMR risk project says, we did it on budget, well, they use all the contingency, which is what we're doing here, right? All of our projects are still in budget, I suppose, but we're still using some contingencies. It's just a kind of a way of saying the same thing, explaining a little different. But I'll tell you this much. Any CMR risk project costs significantly more than the CSP, because the contractors are not pushing down on their subs. They are basically hiring the better subs, and they're marking it up, and they're making more money. That way, and they're not competing on price. So it's a very significant thing that has to do with the market. So what's happening? Many of these, the prices are more expensive, but this delivery system provides more tools and incentives to contractors to finish on time. They really bring more workforce, and they pay out of their contingency, and they're still declare success on budget. And then it is also a problem for the projects that are not CSP to bring those subcontractors in. As a matter of fact, when we bid these projects, we had multiple larger firms. The larger firms didn't participate. They told us straight up to my face, we're waiting on the CSP jobs. We don't do any competitive seal proposals anymore, because the market is so rich that we better hold off and get our money with the CSP, with the construction management of these jobs. And so that's the reality of the market. So we actually, this is a slide of our interview back, 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, where one of the questions was, what are the perceived obstacles to the success of the program? And our second response was the construction market demand. And so what did we do at the time? We really pushed hard to be ahead of the curve when it came to bidding the jobs before the school districts would come on board, you know, or at least EPISD and some others in the city. So we pushed hard. This is a trend that has to do, it's a nationwide trend. This is an article, and there's a link here, an article from Construction Dive that speaks of a 26% increase in the last 3 years on cost alone nationwide. I mean, we're not, and of course El Paso is still, we're isolated, but we're not that isolated. It affects us as well. This is just to give you an example. Academic classroom in Dallas, look at the cost per square feet. And I'll show you what the cost per square feet is for our jobs. You know, and then if you add labs, you see, you know, a lab square foot is about 700, and a lot of our projects have labs. So I'll keep going. And these numbers exclude site work, which is interesting. So giving you cost of existing jobs here in El Paso that are, well, you can argue whether they're comparable or not to your projects. So you did interdisciplinary studies, and everybody that lives on the west or goes there, you see that big building going up, right? It's almost complete. It's approximately 1 year late. And they're actually just shelving half of the project. So they just did the finishes for half of the building. So it looks great on the exterior, but half of your floors are not occupied and are not furnished and are not finished. So you only have like the drywall system and, you know, a light in the middle, but you don't have any fixtures, anything. And the price for that project is about $454 per square feet. Now the Texas Tech, and these are real numbers, at least the first two. This is more from a local contractor that gave us some K-12. But the Texas Tech medical system, and this one is significantly late, had that structural problem, right, that you might be aware of on the slab. This one is at 374, and again, half of it was not finished. And the reason they didn't finish it is because they ran out of money. It wasn't the original intent to not finish it, but they just couldn't pay. Average K-12 with some labs, and again, of course, these are the third one is approximate because you start asking, well, how many labs, right? And is it a high school or is it a elementary is less expensive? Well, it's about 350. So here's ours, and well, this is Dallas, this is UTEP's, this is Texas Tech, an average, and these are our projects right here. See, Valle Verde, 253, and then 257 for Northwest. It's a reality of what we were able to accomplish for the program. You know? And these accounts change orders for us already. So give you a little exercise, okay? Again, it's just kind of on the back of the envelope exercise. So if you were to take an average cost of about 350, and you take our 257, which is the highest that we're paying here, and you multiply by the total square footage that we're building, you're saving like $43 million. Again, I just want to put things in context of what we have achieved. We have a very successed program here.
So
Yes.
what you're saying there is that the board made a very good choice in picking your company.
Not necessarily. I'm just saying that we made very good choices of going CSP, but it has the effect, Dr. Graham. Choosing CSP contractors has the effect of saving money, but being at higher risk of not finishing on time. That's my whole point. That is my whole point. I'm not claiming success for all of this. This is a collaborative effort that decisions were made early on with our crystal ball and with your experience and everything else. I just want to bring up the fact that you ought to be proud of this great program, because 43 million is a couple of your buildings that we couldn't have afforded. So this is what I was talking about with regards to how the projects are extending. You see, from current substantial completion to final completion, should be a month, 2 months max, and now we're struggling because just contractors are not responsive, are not coming back. It's been a challenge. This is kind of what we're projecting here on the projects that are moving moving along, and this matches what we're saying on the thing. I mean, can we save a month? Yes, we could. You know, we're just struggling through it, and we've been burned before a couple times, and I don't think it's, at this point, we don't wanna keep promising and then just keep on moving the dates back. Let me just then focus on our request for additional fees. So in November, we asked for 500,000 through your staff, and we reviewed it, we had discussions. Then the holidays got in between, and then we're beginning to see the continuing slide, and at this point, if we were to calculate our cost to finish the job, we'd be at about 700. Just because they keep moving to the right, as you can see. But we're willing, I mean, after discussions and all that, and Tom couldn't make it, but he's given me his word about it too, was we're willing to hold to the requested 500. I mean, we wanna be a partner of the college. There's been some discussion internally as to whether our project was as a lump sum, and yes, it is a lump sum, but it is obviously bound by time, and we cannot be penalized by the failure of others. You know? We're part of the team, and we are taking a hit ourselves, but we cannot hold it back completely for contractors that are not in our contract. I mean, so we want to finish, and we want to finish well, and I would like to just say that we have a tremendous program that you're going to be proud of. I mean, and it is a lot less expensive than most of your competitors and peers, but it is running into the risk of not finishing on time because the contractors and because of the market and what's going on right now. So give you another little quick thing here. This is the architects. The architects are asking for more money too because they're staying longer on the job. The average has been a 26% increase. This is our change order history, and this is hard to read. I'm sorry. This is how we calculate. I'm sorry. This is how we've calculated. It's all based on our time on the field and on Paulo servicing you all. That's how it was calculated. The culture notes kind of delineating it. This is an overview, just to give you an example. So when we started the program early on, you had 62 million, and of course it's grown quite a bit. And this is the history of everything. We were at 548. We've given you some credits. We've also increased when the construction costs have increased, complexity of the price. We were at 494 in 10/25/17. Then we dropped to 452, and now it's really catching up. And we're still going below the 5, which I think is very reasonable for all the challenges and the work that we're doing. So that's all I have, and I'm ready for questions and answers.
The question is, you're asking for this money, and we finished 3 projects, and we still have 3 projects to go. So am I looking at another 500,000 when we get done with the next 3?
No, sir. We know, I mean, we're getting closer to the completion, and my word and Tom's word are in this.
Okay, so you're gonna put that in writing, that we're
Yeah,
never gonna
because
get
your work
another,
was there before.
we're never gonna get another bill
It's
down
being
the road.
recorded, right? I said that before, but I say that Baron, something that would hit us hard, and I mean, it is hitting us hard now, but we now have control. I mean, of course, if you decide, and let me just say this, if you were to decide to kick a company out and bring the bonding company and wait another year, and that's just hypothetical, right? Hypothetical. That's another year of waiting, right? Because of what it takes to actually get the bonding company to respond, to find another contractor. But we don't anticipate and we don't recommend that at this point. We think that the companies that are doing the job will do it, and we're part of that team. So that answers your question, Dr. Ramos.
Yeah, we can go into executive now. No more questions now? You wanna go into executive?
All right.
Okay, so we need a motion to adjourn?
The Board of Trust, oh, do you need a motion? Or-
Well,
Don't we have to adjourn and then go back, or not?
You need to, just gonna read this.
But we
right?
didn't motion to
Okay.
adjourn, not adjourn.
Just
The-
go to-
Right, okay. The Board of Trustees may conduct an executive or closed session pursuant to Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code for one or more of the following reasons: consultation with its attorney to seek to receive legal advice or consultation regarding pending or contemplated litigation or for any purpose authorized by law, discussion about the value or transfer of real property, discussion about a prospective gift or donation, consideration of specific personnel matters, discussion about security personnel or devices, or discussion of certain economic development matters. The board may also announce that it will go into executive session on any item listed on this agenda if the subject matter is permitted for a closed session by provisions of chapters 551 of the Texas Government Code. Any vote regarding these items shall be taken in open session. Discussion regarding the legal rights and obligations arising from various agreements involving the 2016 bond construction projects pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. The time is 5:22 for this recess and executive session.
Can you call us back in?
It is now 5:53 and the board has come back from executive session. Read 6.3 or
Yes, read it. Motion to recess. Wait, let her read it. Oh, sorry.
action item 6.3. Mr. Melchor Herrera, President of ECM, will request the Board of Trustees to formally approve a consultant change order to ECM International Inc. in the amount of $560,496 for additional project management services related to delays and time extensions for the construction of the 2016 master plan project.
So I would like to pull this item in, item 6.13, into executive session under 551.071 to discuss our legal rights and responsibilities as it pertains to this particular request and the contract that would correspond to ECM. However, we are late in running for our regular meeting, and so my recommendation is that we recess this meeting and reconvene here to take up item 6.3 in executive session. Yes, is everybody in
Yes.
consensus with that?
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yeah. Dr. Graham, can you move to adjourn this meeting? Since your chair is away.
I'm sorry, please.
Just ask her. Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
There you go.
That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Graham.
Okay, so the date is February the 26th, Facilities and Finance Committee meeting. We're clarifying the motion that was made at the end of this meeting, made by Dr. Graham. Dr. Graham, if you'd like to restate your motion.
So the motion is that we're going to recess to go in the boardroom and get our regular board meeting started, and then we are coming back to this room to finish the meeting.
And that was, the time is now 5:58. We have 4 trustees present. Dr. Graham, Ms. Sanchez, Ms. Nahara, and Mrs. Robles.
Ms. Robles and Ms. Piña, not Ms.
And
Sanchez.
I'm sorry, Ms. Pena, clarify, I'm sorry. So we have 4 trustees present, motion passes.